Good morning, everyone. Tonight we begin the 8 days of the joyous festival of Chanukah. And the miracle of Chanukah is not that the candles burnt and lasted for 8 days, but they lasted for 2,400 years, the light of the menorah. As opposed to the Greeks, which the Greeks are gone, the culture of the Greeks, but they did leave us the Olympics. And the Olympics is exactly what Judaism doesn't stand for. What is the idea of Olympics and what is the message of Judaism? So we begin in this week's Parsha. Paro has 2 dreams, and Joseph interprets the dreams, and he says there's going to be 7 years of plenty, 7 years of famine. But what are the dreams? So the opening verses of the Parsha says he dreams there were 7 cows, fat, robust cows that came out of the water. Then 7 skinny cows came, they swallowed up the fat cows. Joseph interprets it that the first will be years of plenty, followed by 7 years of famine. He gives Paro advice how to store food, and he becomes viceroy of Egypt. But here's a fascinating detail that Rashi points out. When the fat cows are described, the verse says, Yefos mareh ubriot basar. The description of the cows is they were good of appearance and healthy flesh. So whenever you have 2 descriptions, there must be 2 points being made. Now, most commentaries and most people think that the description of the good-looking and the fat cows is talking about the years of plenty, that there'll be a lot of food, a lot of plentiful food in Egypt. Not Rashi. Rashi has this one-line interpretation, and he says as follows. He says, Yefot mareh in the dream is not talking about the food. It's talking about the people in Egypt. Yefos mareh, Rashi says, and I'll quote Rashi, Rashi says, it was a sign for the days of plenty that people will look beautiful to one another. What does that mean? That their eyes will not be looking negatively at one another. In other words, they will fragin one another. They'll be happy for each other. They will not look with ill will towards their fellow man. What Rashi is saying is something very powerful, and that the blessing of the 7 years was that there would be 7 years of sova. Sova could mean fullness, but it could also mean contentment. You see, you could have a society that's very successful and wealthy, they're full, but they're not content. You know why they're not content? Because someone else's happiness and success doesn't let them enjoy their own, because they're bothered by someone else. And that's the whole idea of Olympics. Olympics is we're in competition with each other. One of us has to be the winner and one has to be the loser. So therefore, I have to beat you and show that I'm better than you in order to be happy with myself. Because if you exceed me, then I'm the loser. I didn't win. And therefore, I can't be happy in life. So everyone's competing with each other. And even though people have so much, they're not content, they're not happy. And therefore, Rashi says the blessing of the 7 years, not that there should be a lot of food, but there should be contentment. People should look well on one another, be happy for each other's blessings and success. And this is the message of Chanukah. What is a candle? The beauty of a candle is, when I have a candle, I could light 100 candles, 1,000 candles, 1,000,000 candles, it doesn't matter. My light is never diminished. And that's the message of Chanukah. You have your inner light that nobody could take away from you. Someone else's success doesn't undermine your light, your inner glory, your inner shine. And therefore don't feel threatened by another person. And therefore Rashi says so beautifully that when is it Yefos mareh, when people could look at each other positively? When they are brios basar, healthy flesh. You know what healthy flesh means? When you have good self-esteem, when you feel good about yourself. You're not bothered by someone else's success. You don't feel threatened by it. And therefore that is the blessing not just of abundance, but of contentment. We have a society that's very abundant, a lot of material blessings. But how content are we? Until we learn the message of Chanukah, that God gave you a neshama, which is your candle of God, and that light can never be diminished. No one else could extinguish your light. Your light was meant for you to shine. We could have a lot, but we will never be content and fully satisfied. And I'm reminded of a story, talk about Olympics. One of the Olympics they have is called the Special Olympics. Special Olympics is for, as you know, people who have different disabilities. And there was an amazing story that happened. There were a bunch of kids who had different challenges. They were all special needs kids. And they shot off the gun, and the race began. And these kids with their wheelchairs and their problems, different physical and emotional, whatever challenges they had, Down syndrome kids or whatever it may be. They start running the race, and everyone's cheering for them. All of a sudden, this little girl, this young girl, falls like 20 feet into the race. And all the other kids stop, and they see that she fell. And they all stop in their tracks, and they run back, and they lift up this girl, and they all lock arms, and they run the rest of the race together, hand in hand. And the audience, in the stadium stood up, and they gave them a thunderous applause. That would never happen in a real Olympics. If someone falls, ha ha ha, my competition fell, I'll win. But these children, they're very special. You know why they're special? Because they teach us how to act in life. Not like the Olympics, the Greek concept, which is there's only one winner. We're all winners. We all put here for a purpose. And that's the deeper message of Judaism, and the deeper message of the lighting of the menorah by Aaron the high priest that continues from the time of the temple till this very day. And this light is the light that will go on for all of eternity.